Welcome to the NHPC virtual session on using Google Earth to assist with energy modeling. I'm Tom Price, and I'm an energy auditor with the Weatherization Assistance Program. Over the past 10 years, I've been developing this method to assist me with my energy modeling, and now I use it to validate energy models for the Department of Energy. If you're an energy auditor and want to be able to front load your modeling remotely before you visit the home, or if you're a monitor who wants to validate energy models in a desktop review, I think you'll get a lot out of this session. Let me start off by saying that I'm using a Windows machine, but this can also be done on a Mac with some minor modifications. Google Earth and SketchUp are programs that I've been using for a number of years, so that's what I'm going to be demonstrating with today. But there are also some other programs which could be used, like ArcGIS and Bender. I'll provide links for downloading the free versions of Google Earth and SketchUp in the accompanying materials. You have to use the desktop versions, not the online versions, because the features that I'm going to be showing you today are only available in the desktop versions. Now, let's get started. First, I'll open up Google Earth. Once I get Google Earth started, I'm going to type in the address in the search bar. The easiest way to zoom in is to use the slider in the navigation bar on the right-hand side of the screen. So I'm going to zoom in on this house. Till it fills up the screen. Now, I want to be sure that I am viewing the house from directly above and that it's aligned in its cardinal position. So I'm going to click on View and then Reset and then Tilt and Compass. Once I've done that, then I want to save this image, and so I'm going to use the Save Image tool up here. And once I click on that, then I'm going to go under Map Options and uncheck Title and Description and Legend. I don't need those two items. And under the Scaling, I'm going to increase that until the scale bar in the bottom gets to 100 feet or more. Now I'm ready to save this image, and so I click on Save Image, and I will tell it where I want to save the image. Click Yes. And so that's my first image. And I want to get two more images. So I'm going to X out of this to get my navigation bar back. And the next images that I'm going to get are going to be in Street View. And so to enter Street View, you drag the little person from the navigation bar and you'll see the blue line appear in the street. And we want not to be right in front of the house, but off to the side so that we can see the front and the side of the house at the same time. And this is an excellent perspective of this house. We're going to zoom in a little bit here because we can see the side very well and the front as well. So we'll zoom in until it just about fills the screen. And now we're going to save this image. And so again, we're going to click on Save Image and then Save Image again. And we'll give it a name. We'll call it Street View 1. Save. Now I want one more image. Let's X out of this so that we get our navigation bar back. I'm going to go down the street a little bit by just clicking down here and looking back up at the house. And again, another very nice perspective because we can see the other side now as well as the front. Now, if we were able to visit the house, even without going inside the house, we could take 4 pictures of this house from the 4 corners and get all 4 sides. You really only need 2, one from one corner and one from the opposite corner to get the 4 sides, but it's better if you've got 4 pictures. So now we're going to save this image. So again, I'm going to click on Save Image up here in the toolbar, and then Save Image, and we'll call this SV2, Street View 2. Save. So now we have 3 images that we can use to model this house in Google Earth. In Google SketchUp. So let's get started with Google SketchUp. So I'm going to open up SketchUp Make, and this is the 2017 version of SketchUp Make. And I'll click on Start Using. And it will open up. So now I'm going to import that first image that I created in Google Earth. So I'll go under File and then Import. And then I'm going to navigate to the pictures. And so there is that first picture, and it's going to appear on my workspace, and I need to click on the origin and then move my cursor up the green axis until at the bottom of the screen here I can see that distance is going to be around 100 feet, and then I'll click again. So that makes the image big enough that I can start to work with it. So now I'm going to view it from the top and zoom extents. And then I'm going to zoom window, and I'm going to select the area that my scale bar is located in so I can make that fill up pretty much the whole screen. And I'm going to use the tape measure tool to set the scale. So I'm going to click over on one end of the scale bar and then drag it and make sure that it snaps to the red axis, and drag it over to the other end of the scale bar in the corresponding position and click again. And now I'm going to type 100 apostrophe. That's important because that tells it that it's feet. And then enter. And it's going to ask me if I want to resize the model. And I'm going to hit enter again. So now the model is scaled properly. So now I will zoom extents again. And again I'm going to zoom in on the house. So I'll use zoom window to zoom in on the house. And you'll notice that it's not perfectly aligned with the polar coordinates. So I need to adjust my axis in SketchUp. Otherwise, any squares or lines that I draw are not going to be lined up perfectly with the house. They'll be a little bit askewed. So let me reset my axis, and we'll do that by using the axis tool. So I'll click on that, and then I'm going to click on one of the corners, and then I'm going to drag it out to the edge of the screen. Now it's going to want to snap to the what is actually the red axis right now. I don't want that. I want it a little bit askewed off from that. So I have to get kind of far away over here to the edge of the screen to be able to not snap. So I'll pull it down until it's pretty well aligned with the edge of the house, and click again. And then I'm just going to click anywhere else on the screen, and the green axis will show up obviously 90 degrees off of the red axis. So now that looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. So now I can draw my the perimeter of the roof, and we will that looks good about right there. And so now the perimeter of the roof obviously extends out over the foundation, the footprint of the house. And so you need to just kind of estimate about how much that is when you're looking at the images from Street View. And so I'm going to say that that is about 1.5 feet. And so I want a rectangle that is about 1.5 feet smaller than this on each side. I could just move each side in, but the easiest thing to do is to use the offset tool. And so you just click on the offset tool, and then click on the surface that you want to offset, and start to move the cursor, and you'll see that a line forms on the inside of that. And then I'm just going to type 1/8, enter, 18 inches, 1.5 feet. And so that draws that line that's smaller than my hat print. It gives me my footprint. So I want to get rid of the first square that I drew, and so I'll use the eraser and erase these outer lines. And now I have a rectangle which represents the footprint of the house. So let's see. At this point, I'm going to get out of the top view and go into an orthographic view or isometric view. Let me also move my origin to where it's exactly on the corner of the house. So I'll click on the corner, and then click on this edge, and then click on that edge, and that moves my origin over. And now I have a two-dimensional rectangle, and I need to make that into a three-dimensional shape. So I'm going to use the push-pull tool to extrude this surface up into a cube. So I'll start pulling it up, and I'm just going to type 8 apostrophe enter, and that makes it 8 feet tall. Now we're ready to use the Street View images. And so to do that, what I'm going to do is use the orbit tool, and I'm going to orbit to the position more or less like from where I got that first Street View image. Get in there. And I don't need this first the aerial view now, so I want to get rid of that. It might get in my way. So I'm going to use the select tool and right click on that surface and then click hide, and that makes that go away. So now this is where the magic comes in. What we're going to do, we have this this three-dimensional shape here, and we're going to project that onto the two-dimensional image of the street view, and then we can start drawing on this three-dimensional shape. So we're going to use the match photo feature over here in the sidebar, and click on the new match photo, the little plus sign there, and we will navigate to the first street view image. And so there's street view 1, there it is. And so you'll see some things appear on the screen. In addition to the street view image, we have two red lines that are parallel to the red axis, and two green lines which are parallel to the green axis. And what we want to do is line those up in the photo in the proper orientation. So let's see. I like to start off with the ridge line. So I'm going to move this top green axis, green line, up to the ridge line and adjust the ends. You adjust the ends by clicking on the ends of them, and you can move the whole thing by dragging it from anywhere on the line itself. And we'll move this one down here. It's always good if you line these up with lines in, so like we've got the vinyl siding here that's got some lines in it that we can line up with, and that they're very far apart. The closer they are together, the less precise they are. The farther apart they are, the more precise they are. So we've got the green axis lined up pretty well, and now we'll do the same with the red. So I'm going to move this end up until it is falling onto the line, the horizontal lines on that side, and I'll do the same along the bottom here where the siding meets the foundation. It's a good place to do it. So I've got my my green axis set and my red axis set, and now this is, let's move that out of the way a little bit so I can grab the origin on my three-dimensional object here. And so I'm going to set that on the corner of the house. Get it lined up with the corner pretty well. And now I need to set the scale. So to set the scale, you just mouse over one of the axes, either the red axis or the green axis or the blue axis. And when you do that, you see it turns to a double arrow. And then you can click and drag in or out or up or down, and you see it gets bigger or smaller. And I'm going to do that. I'm looking at the outside corners here, and I want to get pretty close to those. And I just need to make a little bit of adjustment here, because you see over on the left here I'm a little bit too short, and over on the right I'm a little bit too long. So I can adjust that by moving ever so slightly my parallel lines here. Maybe this needs to go up a little bit more. And that lines everything up pretty well here. So I'm pretty happy with that. So now I'm going to click on Done. And so you notice that I used a ceiling height of 8 feet. However, this is an older house. It's got taller ceilings, so I'm going to go ahead and increase that to 9 feet. So to do that, let me orbit a little bit with the orbit tool, and you'll notice when I start to move, I lose the matched photo, because obviously you could only see that from one perspective. We can get back to that pretty easily, but I just want to be able to see the top here so that I can again use my push-pull tool and raise the ceiling up another 12 inches. So 1, 2, enter. And now I can get back to the matched photo by clicking on the tab at the top of the workspace here, and that brings that back. All right, so let's go ahead and add the second matched photo. So to do that, we can use again the orbit tool, and we'll orbit around to the other front corner here, where more or less where we took the second matched photo. And again, we'll click on the plus sign, and we will navigate down to that matched photo, Street View 2, and there it is. And again, same thing. Let me set my green axis up here, get it lined up, and then the lower one down there, and my red axis. Now these Street View photos, they are made up of lots of photos taken by the Street View car as it goes around, and they get stitched together, and sometimes they get stitched together in kind of a funny way. So like you can see up here, the roof has a bit of an odd shape to it, but they're pretty darn good for what they are. All right, so we've got the axis set up pretty well, and now I'm going to zoom in and get it as close as I can. Let's see here, maybe if I, yeah, adjust that a little bit, and maybe adjust that. What I'm looking for is that the corners line up properly. Now, if I could see the bottom of the front door here, I would want my green axis to be in line with that. I'm pretty much guessing at where the floor is, but I think that looks pretty good right there. All right, so I'm going to click done. All right, so we've got the downstairs. We've we can see it from this view and also from this view up here. Now let's do the upstairs. So to model the upstairs, I'm going to use my pencil tool, the line tool, and I like to start in the middle of the gable end and draw a line up, and that way I'm able to control the height of the ceiling. So I'm going to draw a line that's 9 feet long. So 9 apostrophe enter, and then I'm going to, and you notice it likes to snap to the red axis. So I'm going to take it over to the top of the slope where the slope and the ceiling meet. And now I just need to draw 2 more lines. So, but before I draw the slope here, what I'm going to do, because I want to be sure that it is in line with the front wall, I'm going to hover over that end point at the top of the front wall, and then move my cursor up along the blue axis, and it'll stay stuck to that. And when it comes up to a point that looks parallel to the slope of the roof, I'll click there and then finish the line down at that endpoint. And that created half of my gable end, and I can just do the same thing on the other side, starting at this top corner here, and exactly the same thing. I'm going to go out and try and make everything symmetrical here. So that first one was 7 feet, so I'm going to type 7 apostrophe enter. And then again, I'm going to hover over that end point and start to come up, and you'll notice that it snaps to a line. It already knows that you want to be symmetrical, so it's going to snap to a line that is the same height as that other corner in the front. And so we can click, and now we have the other half. So we can get rid of this first line that we drew, that middle line, that center line. And now we have the gable end wall, and let's orbit a little bit here so you can see better what we've got. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to extrude this over. Now you'll notice the inside and the outside of surfaces are different colors. So what I'm going to do is, just to keep everything the same color on the outside, I'm going to right click and reverse faces before I extrude this, and you notice that makes the exterior of my shape the same color as the downstairs. And I've lost my original gable end here, but to get it back I just need to draw one side of it and it'll pop back in. All right, so now we've got the downstairs and we've got the upstairs. Now I should note that whereas this house, I have seen some pictures online of the interior, and so I know that it doesn't have any knee walls. But sometimes, obviously, these houses with finished attics do have a knee wall. And usually, let me just orbit out of this picture a little bit. Usually, when that's the case, let's draw our center line back in here, midpoint. Usually, when you have a knee wall, those are at the 25% and 75% of the length of the side. That's typically where they fall, because what it does is that way it supports the roof rafter halfway between the peak and the top of the wall, and so the roof rafter can be spliced in two equally lengthed pieces. So typically that's where your knee wall is going to be, but you'll want to verify that that's the location when you're on site. So with that center line in there, I can go to the midpoint here, and that's my 25% of that wall, and draw the line there up to wherever it, make sure it stays vertical, and use that as my end wall. In this case, we don't need it. So let's go back to our street view picture, our matched photo, and I'll get rid of that. So one more element that we need to add is the dormer. 2 dormers actually, but fortunately they're symmetric. So we'll just do the same thing and do the same thing on the back that we'll do on the front here. So let's see. To do this dormer, what I'm going to do is go back and use my line tool, and I'm going to draw its profile out here on the gable end, and then move it down. So I'll start at the top of the slope, click there, and then stay on my red axis. I'm going to move over to the blue axis and click, and then down to the bottom of the slope, and that gives me that triangle there. Now I can use my push-pull tool and move that down, extrude that shape out, and Move it down to about there. And then I'm going to do the same thing again and move the first side down. So let's see, about right there. And now we've got a dormer on the front, and we can do the same thing exactly for the back. Draw a little triangle. Let's see, I'm trying to get it to snap. You've got to hover over that end point and then move it up, and there we go. And my push-pull, I'm going to click on that and snap it to that point over there, and the same thing. I'll click on that and snap it to that edge there. Great. So I'm just going to erase a couple of lines that we don't need here. And we're pretty much done. So at this point, we're just missing the windows and doors. What I like to do at this point is I start my energy modeling software, and I will fill in the gross wall area for each wall. So in order to find the gross wall area, it's very simple, or the attic or the foundation. You just use the pointer, the select tool, and select the surface that you're interested in. So for example, this attic here, and we click on it, and over here in the entity information, we can see that that surface is 559 square feet. So we would model the attic as a 559 square foot attic. For the top surface of it. And then for the roof rafters, we can model just click on, if you want to select more than one surface at a time. So for example, we would want that one, and that one. 182 on that side, and obviously the same thing on the front. So the great thing about this is that you don't have to do any math. It does all of your math for you. So all four of those roof slope surfaces together would be 364. The front wall, let's do the upstairs and the downstairs together, is 416 square feet. The south-facing wall, we've got the downstairs, we've got the upstairs, and we've got the two dormers here. So all together, we're looking at 510 square feet for the south wall, and obviously the north wall is going to be the same. So you can see how nice this is to be able to get all of your surface areas just by clicking on them. You don't have to do any math. So now let's put the windows and the doors in that. And so to do that, we're going to go back to the matched photo. So click on the matched photo here, and it's very simple. We just use the rectangle tool, and we're just going to click on one corner of a window and then make our little rectangle down to the opposite corner. And we can do that on every window and every door. And after we've done that, when we're modeling our windows and doors, then we can just use our tape measure here and measure the width, 2 feet 4 inches, and the height, 5 foot 6, and use those numbers in our modeling software. Now, if you want it to have very, very precise measurements, when you get to the house, you can verify that the overall length and the overall width of the house matches your model. And so then after I've created this model, actually I'm going to go ahead and open up, I'm going to close this and then open up one that I've already done, just like in a cooking TV cooking show. I'm going to go in and open up this model that I've already created with all the windows and doors. And you'll also notice that I put the back porch. I was able to notice in some photos that I found of this house on a real estate site online that it had some portions of the back porch that had been enclosed and that I believe are part of the thermal boundary of the house. So I've included those. And so what I've done here is I've used my dimensions tool and added in all of the relevant dimensions for the house. And now what I want to do is create a drawing that can be used in the client file and then label every part on that drawing. Actually, I'm going to do two drawings, one from this side and one from the other side. And that way, that drawing, when anybody else has to look at the energy model, they'll know exactly where every single component is in that model. And for your crew that have to do work, suppose that there's a window that needs to be replaced. They'll know exactly where that window is just by looking at the drawing. So let's start with this first view. And so to create this drawing, I'm going to just use the screen capture. I'll use print screen right here on my keyboard. Just hit that. And now I'm going to use Microsoft Paint, but you could use any image editing software that you like. And so open that up, and then I'm just going to paste that screen capture in, and there it is. And now I can crop that. So I'm going to select the area that I'm interested in and crop that out. Now I can start to label things. And I like to do it, I know that I could do it in SketchUp. It's a lot more tedious to do it in SketchUp. It'll be a lot more legible if you do it in Paint. So let's see, and I'm sure you have your own practice of labeling, but I'll just show you what I like to do. So I'm going to call this wall 1, W1, and this wall 2. And then this, let's say that this is maybe this is insulated and this is not insulated. So let's call that wall 3. So that way we can treat those differently in the energy model. And let's say that the upstairs is insulated. So that might as well be the same as wall 2. So we'll call that wall 2. And again, this can be wall 1. And this is attic 1. And the slopes can be finished attic 1. And we would just define those as roof rafters. And this is wall 2. And this is also wall 2. And here we have door 1. And then we'll have west window 1. Let's make this font a little bit smaller. Let's do 14. And west window 2. West window 3. West window 4. West window 5. Move that out. All right, and so now I can save this image. Maybe put the project number on it. So number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever your client number is, so that it is identified. And I can save that image into the client file, and it's a very nice thing to have. So let me just wrap up by saying that I think you're really going to like this method of modeling and getting measurements from a house. It's going to take you a little bit of time at first just to get used to doing it this way, but in the end, it's really going to save you a lot of time. I typically take about 2 minutes when I get to a house to take my 4 pictures from the 4 corners, and I get 2 overall measurements, the longest length and the longest width. And with those 4 pictures and 2 measurements, I am able to get every single measurement of every part of the building envelope. And if I were to have to go around and measure all the windows and doors and the dormers and all the slopes and everything like that in the house, it would take much, much, much more time than it does for me to create this model in the comfort of my office, which I think most of you would agree is much nicer than trying to get those measurements on site. And also the drawings. The drawings are so much, there's no way that I could make drawings. Some of you, I'm sure, are much better at drawing than I am. But having these drawings is so helpful. So you can use the Google Earth as a good way of getting started, especially if you're not able to visit the house. But using on photos that you've taken yourself is a lot more accurate, obviously. And so I hope that you'll get a lot out of this, and that it will improve the accuracy of your auditing, and you'll be able to provide a better service to your clients. Thanks so much for joining me for this virtual session, And let me know if you have any questions. There is the materials that I have attached, and my email address is included in that. So have a great day. Bye.